Welcome to Runway, and welcome to your next app release. This screen is where you kick off each new release. Runway handles all of the tedious work for you, incrementing version number in code, assigning a release manager, creating a release branch, and setting up any required labels or tags in your issue tracking platform, for example. For teams that release with a regular cadence, Runway manages your release schedule for you. We kick off your releases automatically and, provided they proceed without issues, will submit and release automatically as well. Kickoff day rolls around and your release is kicked off. Now there's lots more for your team to do, as you can see from the other steps in the left-hand timeline that are active now. In the feature readiness step, Runway helps you track exactly what work is going out with the release and what work is blocking. We intelligently combine two different sources of truth, code and issue tracking, to make sure nothing slips through the cracks. For example, you'll be able to see when work that's understood to be done has code that isn't actually merged into your release branch. And when there's code on your release branch that is unidentified or not linked to a ticket, you'll know about that too. If code on your release branch is linked to a ticket, but that ticket isn't properly associated with this release, Runway automatically adds the necessary tags or labels. There are some helpful shortcut actions here. For example, you can punt an item out of this release if you decide to descope it. You can also ping an item's assignee or author. Finally, note the step owner in the top right corner. On every step, you can assign someone on your team to be responsible for that part of the release. They'll have specific privileges and will receive specialized notifications. Since kickoff, your first release candidate has probably started building. Runway has named this release candidate Fiery Flamingo. Passing unwieldy build numbers around the team can be confusing, and time is wasted making sure everyone knows which build is your latest release candidate. So, Runway assigns each of your release candidate builds a unique name that makes it easier to get on the same page. Fiery Flamingo just finished building. Your QA team members will be notified that they can now begin regression testing, and beta testers will be informed that they can start beta testing. As new release candidate builds are triggered, Runway collects your build history right here, so you never have to bounce out to your CI platform. Here's QA's home for regression testing. You can import existing test scripts and then, going forward, manage everything from within Runway. The whole team gets improved visibility into when regression testing starts and how it's progressing. If a new release candidate build becomes available in the middle of regression testing, that gets called out clearly, and everyone can see on which build a given item was last tested. Beta testing is another step that can get going once you have a release candidate build. You have control over what kind of beta testing program you want to run. For example, you can set up a defined period of time, a soak period, over which beta testers' usage and feedback should be monitored. If you need to get in touch with a tester or ticket any issue that they report, there are shortcuts for that. From the moment the release kicks off, team members in design and marketing can start putting together screenshots and metadata. They'll actually receive a notification alerting them of this, so it won't get left to the last minute. Runway's Screenshots interface is designed as a more approachable and more foolproof alternative to App Store Connect and the Google Play console. We apply helpful guardrails that better convey exactly what assets are needed, for what devices, in what languages, and in what dimensions. You can drag an entire folder of assets into Runway, and will automatically assign them all properly. Another cool extra is information on when any given asset was last updated. Like with screenshots, everything you do with metadata is pulled into Runway so team members don't have to deal with daunting developer portals. Runway tracks search performance as you change keywords and other copy between releases, helping you improve your app's store presence. It can be hard to visualize how your screenshots and metadata will come together. So, Runway shows you exactly what your App Store presence will end up looking like, updating live as you make changes. Often teams have one more gate in their release process, requiring approval from certain external stakeholders. For example, from security or compliance teams. This is Runway's home for that. You can put together a summary of critical or relevant changes in the release for approvers to review. And approvers can leave comments and easily sign off within Runway. It's now up to the team to work together towards submission by turning each of the above steps green. Runway's submission screen gives you an overview of your readiness to submit, highlighting outstanding action items and blockers for each step. So, your release proceeds and everything turns green, step by step. You're now ready to submit. Runway's confidence score gives you a sense of the overall risk associated with this release, based on your past releases and how you've progressed through this one. Hit the submit button within Runway and we take care of the rest. If your team is on a scheduled release cadence, submission happens automatically at the designated time without you having to do anything at all. After submission, you can monitor the status of the store review process here. Over time, Runway will be able to give you estimates of how long the review process is likely to take. If your app gets rejected during review, we surface everything you need to know about why it was rejected and what to do to address the issues identified. Sooner or later, your app is approved and you're finally ready to start releasing it to the public. Your entire release process wraps up on this takeoff screen. If you had chosen an automatic release style, your new app should already be on its way to users. Otherwise, just come here to hit the button to release. And you're live. Runway takes care of routine post-release tasks like tagging and back merging. Also, we can auto-generate internal release notes and other documentation for you. With stats and analysis providing insight into your release, your team is better equipped to improve your release process going forward. So, you can relax for a bit now. When it's time to put together your next release, Runway will be ready.